And happy Thursday morning. This is Coffee Rant with Dan. Today's date is March 27th, 2025, in the year of all of us. And Revolution.radio is the largest listener-supported platform in the world. If you have a little bit of extra, please give. On the main page, go to the donations tab, and there's a plethora of ways that you can donate if you have a little extra. Although times are getting tough, it's highly appreciated. So, man, there's just so many things to always talk about. And I put my show together about 20 minutes ago, which is awesome. I like doing this sometimes. So today's topic, and I'm going to talk about a few other things first, but today's topic is going to be, let me just go ahead and pull it up here. Today's topic, where is it at? There it is. Today's topic is going to be 4 reasons why people form resentments. And 5 strategies of dealing with resentments towards you or towards others, because sometimes you'll have somebody that you're friends with, somebody that's in your family, and you'll see they have some type of major resentment with someone else. Sometimes they'll come to you for advice, or sometimes they'll just be venting. So it was interesting to me to do it that way. Because the year of 2000 well, let me just stop for a second. For me, part of the forging process is challenging myself in certain ways. So here's how I came up with this. I went to Chat PT or Chat Copilot AI, and I actually just typed those things in. And it gave me its answers. And I haven't read those yet. So I have not read the answers. It's 4 reasons why people form resentments and 5 strategies for dealing with those resentments. I have not read those answers. I just copy and pasted them to a little note Word document, and I'm going to do it live on the show. And I'm going to probably ad lib. I'm going to see, what do I agree with? What do I disagree with? What would I add? And see how close it comes. Because remember, Chat AI is only going to put out there certain things, and I already know some of those things are going to be real woo-woo. They're not going to encompass the complexities of this topic and all the different ways in which these things occur. But they occur in our lives. If anyone recalls, a couple episodes ago, I talked about the 7 deadly sins and how they weren't really deadly sins. They were just warnings against excess, and how envious people in itself envy isn't always a bad thing. Envy sometimes can drive you to want to be like that which you envy. The dark side of envy, of course, is jealousy. So part of the forging process for me, as if we go back to the first couple of episodes I did, and I talked about a friend of mine who had departed, and just a couple weeks, afterwards, I was having a fresh vegetable dinner with a friend, Psychic Sonia, and all of a sudden she's like, "Did you hear that?" I'm like, "No." She's like, "He's right there. He's screaming at you." And I look over to where she's pointing at, and I'm used to being around people with these gifts, spiritual mediums. Under other circumstances, I would have started laughing at her invisible friend screaming at me, but I know better now. And then she described him. And lo and behold, it was my friend who had just passed, who worked at a forge here in the greater Cleveland area. In fact, he forged 2 different Captain America shields for the Avengers movie, first one that was being filmed here in 2011, that came out in 2012. And, he's not resting in peace. This guy's up there arguing with people, and he's winning his arguments, I guarantee you. I didn't even want to start an argument with him at his funeral because he probably would have sat up in the coffin and still won. I love this guy. But he was screaming Forge at me. And when I looked around, I was looking for music for the Revolution.radio bumper that we make, which I haven't really heard on Revolution.radio like a whole lot. I heard it once maybe. I think I have to redo it, make it a little bit better. But the music was... it was just the instrumental to where Thor in the movie Avengers enters Wakanda after he left the Forge. And there's an allegory in that whole scene where Thor is burnt by the fire, and sometimes burning the old self away and the new self will arise. Being burnt with the fire of truth. Nature came to his aid, and then he enters Wakanda and does his cool Thor stuff, right? But the instrumental of that music, the name of it in royalty-free music was called Forge. And I thought that was just an odd synchronicity that screamed that to me. So part of the forging process, of course, is challenging yourself. And this is one of the ways I like to challenge myself. So Chat AI's got its uses. I just know it is limited to the information it will give you, because I've gone in circles with it. I've gone in circles with it about the legitimacy of human authority and government to be the boss of you. And there's plenty of things going on in the world with that, as usual. It's getting less and less interesting to me. It never has been interesting. There's an agenda in place, and everything that happens is moving towards that agenda. If people haven't figured out what the 2-party paradigm in this world is yet by now, I don't know what to tell you. It's meant to keep the peasants fighting one another, because of 7.5 billion people turned around and looked at the couple thousand that actually rule this world. Their game's over. So for all my military friends, police friends, fellow citizens, which they are a part of, it cannot do what they want to do with a divided America. And the thing that I notice the most is the Republicans and the Republicans do the exact same thing, and they'll use slightly different verbiage to describe that thing, which is rule you and take your money. And then they get the peasants to fight over said verbiage. So I would say sometimes a healthy part of resentment would be having resentment for those who do harm to others, having resentment for those who want to do harm to you, having resentment for slavery, having resentment for people who are sociopathic manipulators. That's an important thing. And another thing, the reason why I did 4 reasons for resentments and 5 ways of dealing with it, because that is a number 9. Today is the 27th. That's a number 9. This year, 2025, is a number 9. So that's 999. There's some spiritual significance to that. That's an ending of one thing and a beginning of another. In the tarot, it relates to the Hermit card. And I do spend a lot of time alone. But the Hermit card isn't just about being alone. The Hermit card is about enlightenment. Hold on one second. The Hermit card is about enlightenment and finding God, so to speak. Lighting the way with the staff to help guide you. And you don't always need to know everything, which is a journey that I'm on. It's part of the forging process. But the number 9 also, the Hermit reversed, means you're coming out of hiding. You're coming out of that hermit mode, that isolation, and you're starting to rejoin the world a little bit. And when you reverse the 9, it's a number 6, which relates to the Chariot. And the Chariot is forging ahead, full speed ahead, being a warrior, despite the things that come up in your life that could be setbacks, despite your own issues. You deal with them, you identify them, you move beyond them. And that's not always easy to do. And usually I am guilty of being really good at giving advice, but not always taking my own advice. And anyone who wants to get out there and say that they've ever been any different, that hasn't been their issue at one point or another, is probably deceiving you. Okay? You shouldn't stay stuck in something like that. You should be able to follow your own advice. In most cases in my life, I always have. You know, it's like, one of the places I worked when I was a government order follower, people who were getting their resumes padded, so to speak, for future promotions because they were already, in the cool club, we'll just put it that way, they were being made into instructors, martial arts, like self-defense instructors, defensive tactics instructors. And these are people who could actually fight their way out of a wet paper bag. Or they were being forced through firearms instruction school. And these are people who barely were able to qualify with a firearm in the military at the bottom level. And I always wondered, okay, the ability to teach is one thing. You should be able to take a PowerPoint presentation and go over it a couple times, do some research the day before class and still be able to present it in a educational and informative manner, even if your knowledge is limited on it. That's part of being a professional teacher. But there are certain things that you should have intimate knowledge with and be very good at with before you actually attempt to teach it. And I'm not saying teach on a smaller level, because when you teach, you do learn twice. One thing Wayne Dyer used to do, as soon as he learned a concept and he understood it generally, the next thing he would do is really start teaching it, hammering it home, because then he would actually conceptualize it, he would internalize it, and he would own it. This is why when you teach martial arts, when you teach, you learn twice. Some people have a saying in the martial arts, and they say, if you want to be a lion, go train with lions. That's true some of the time, you should. Hold on a second. Drinking my morning coffee. However, sometimes you need to go train with the cubs. Sometimes you need to train with the lambs or the puppies a little bit, let's just say. If you want to be a wolf, go train with wolves. Maybe sometimes you need to train with a puppy. And this is why. If you're constantly training with the wolves, the big dogs on the block, you are going to get better eventually, but you're going to get beat up a lot too. And that's needed sometimes. It keeps you humble. But when you're training with those that you are way above, you can really work on your stuff without paying the consequences. Plus, you have to still be careful of any wild stuff they throw at you, because they don't have technique yet, and you don't want to get caught with some kind of wild shot. But they generally don't have the skill to be a threat to you in a sparring match when people aren't supposed to be killing each other anyway. So you can kind of get away with mistakes, and then you see, can I get this new thing to work on this guy? Okay, there's someone a little bit better. Can I get it to work on this one? Here's a guy who's about at my level, give or take any given day, and can I get it to work on him? Then go see if you can make it work on that wolf or on that lion. And that's how you improve. So you should be training with those less knowledgeable, those at your level, and those hopefully only few people above you, but there's probably many, trust me. So that's important. So I'm gonna like jump into this because I have no clue on how much of a tangent that I'm gonna go on any given one of these things. I really don't. I usually have a little more to say pre-topic, and I'm usually just burning time because I can go through a topic fast or I can go through it slow. I'm really getting bored talking about the same old lunatics in politics because all ticks are parasites, which we have in our lives, and we should resent those. So this is going to be interesting. I want you to, as you follow along, just keep in mind that I just came up with this list this morning. I didn't come up with the list. Artificial intelligence did, and I want to see how much I agree with, how much I don't agree with. See how much you agree with and how much you don't agree with. Hold on a second. That's my good friend Denny. Hold on a minute. Hey, Denny, you're live on Revolution.radio, man. How you doing?
How you doing?
Not too bad. So I'm in the middle of the show. You called, so I put you on speakerphone because I know I missed your call last night. What do you got going on again with your singing? That's going to be happening soon.
Well, I put in for America's Got Talent, and just waiting to hear a call, or not, but just waiting to hear a call or get sent an email telling me to come to LA.
Rock on. Outstanding. All right, so I'll just plug this guy. He can sing. If you're anybody in the greater Cleveland area looking for a singer to come to your bar, your tavern, your show, you can email me and you can email me. You can find my email address. It's oh God, I got a couple of them. Which one should I use? spiritualanarchist93@gmail.com. Again, that's spiritualanarchist, all one word, common spelling. spiritualanarchist93@gmail.com. Shoot me an email about Denny, and just put about Denny. And if you want him to sing, I'm telling you, this guy can sing. I'll tell you his genre. Some people say he sounds more like Elvis than Elvis, but I've heard him go all over the place. Anyway, Denny, bro, I'm going to finish up with this show, man. I'll holler at you later.
And if they'd like to see videos, it's on Karaoke Guy 1946 on YouTube. All one word, Karaoke Guy 1946.
Okay, outstanding, brother. Hey, man, love you. I'll holler at you later.
All right, bro.
All right. I don't know if anyone heard him. I'll have to listen to the show later on because I just put my cell phone on speaker. So anyways, continuing, I like to challenge myself with this just to see what I come up with and what I agree with, what I disagree with, what I add to it. And as you follow along, do the same thing. What would you think would be different? What could you add? Like I said, there's a lot of entanglements and subtleties and nuances in these things. The human emotions are just very complex. Very complex. I mean, we're 75% water, so I've heard it said we're basically cucumbers with feelings. And lately in the cosmos, we do have, like, every single planet is in Gatorade. The moon is an aquarium and all that other stuff. So all this stuff does, I'm joking, of course, for anyone who follows astrology. All this stuff affects the human body. If the moon can affect the tides, well, then things going out there with gravitational forces, it's actually science. This isn't woo-woo mysticism. It could affect our behavior a little bit. Not only that, all the EMF going through and being shot everywhere can affect it. The fear porn that they put out there on the news 24/7 is going to affect your mood. Surround yourself with is going to affect your mood. Read other people's energy if you can. We all have it. Read other people's intentions. Read other people's moods. I am a real empath. I can do this almost instantaneously. It helped me in police work. I can tell when someone's lying. And everyone is a human lie detector. I'm a little bit better at it because I am a true empath. And everyone thinks they're an empath. And there's only one way to be an empath. It's not some special talent or skill you're born with. It's not some psychic ability, although it could turn into these things. What it comes from is a very, very violent, abusive childhood perpetrated towards you by somebody or somebodies that you trusted. So understanding and beginning to read their moods, your safety is predicated on that. And it becomes a coping mechanism. And it helps you, it aids you. And as an adult, it can turn you into a people pleaser or a complete dickhead. And I've vacillated between both. I'm finally at that nice balanced spot where I am in the middle, and I'm kind of balanced between being both. And that's where we want to be. If you have to choose between one or the other, I will always say choose dickhead. Or if you're a female, bitch. And just, you're either a dickhead or a bitch, do it all the time. With people that are dealing with you in a certain way, of course. I'm not talking about with everybody. People should get the version of you that they want, meaning that they deserve, not that they want. Actually, let me take that back. They should get the version of you they deserve, not the one that they want or project onto you. Because projection turns into resentments. I haven't even started reading this stuff yet. Expectation is the mother of all resentments. I can go into like this whole thing without even reading this actually, but let me get into 4 reasons why people form resentments. Number 1, jealousy or envy. If others perceive you as more successful, fortunate, or skilled in certain areas, envy sometimes can breed resentment. Jealousy breeds resentment. So I'll give an analogy. I've had people be sort of resentful towards me because of my accomplishments or my responses to their actions. And they would form that resentment, but at first there was envy before the resentment. This is a big one. This is a real big one. I could spend the whole rest of the show talking about this one, actually, and I haven't read ahead, so I don't think I want to do that. So if I end up coming back to this one, that'll be why. Say you're a kid that played a lot of violent video games, and you're playing those games, and you're raging at those games, but you never really play the whole video game through. You instead look up the cheat codes. Get the cheat code, get to the end. Well, folks, in real life, if you're going to be something in any capacity, you have to put in some work. There are no cheat codes. That's a big one. Usually, if somebody is envious of you, it's because there's something about you that they admire and cannot achieve without putting the work in. So they just it's a lot easier to try to pull you down than raise themselves up, because when they're pulling you down, gravity's working on their side. Unfortunately, these people will be friends and they will be family members. They will be people you've helped. When you help somebody, when I help somebody, I do it from a space of understanding, humbleness, empathy. And I try to do it in a way where and there is no try, I do it in a way where I remind the person of their power, not of their weakness at that time. And this is very important. And I do it in that way because, first off, that's the really only good moral way to do it. And secondly, if you don't, resentments are going to form for sure. This is one way to try to mitigate that. When a person needs help and you're the one they come to help from, that means they look up to you in a certain way. They know you're able to help in that area. Therefore, in their mind, they perceive you above them in that area at that time. And later on, in order to gain their power back, sometimes they will inadvertently and subconsciously seek to bring that person that they really, really want to be or respect. They want to bring them down to a certain level, knock them down a peg or two. And then the resentment forms. So it's very likely that a person that you've tried to help may end up inadvertently forming some type of resentment towards you. And I, of course, want to go right into what you can do about this, but that's going to be in the next section. We'll see what the next section, or the five ways of dealing with this is concerned. But when you see it, you need to really nip it in the bud and really just ask questions. You'd be surprised what an honest question we'll get. Okay, somebody I care about very deeply didn't want me talking about a certain subject whenever I brought it up, but it is a primary subject that I have in my life right now as we're talking back and forth. And I understand exactly where they are coming from, honestly. I really, really do. And it really, really helps me. However, at the time, I just simply asked, what is it about this particular topic that I can't ever talk about with you? And that caused a little bit of thought on their part. And that's all it took. I was able to vent and talk about it a little bit, but not too much. Because this person will check the shit out of me if I'm, you need people in your life that are going to be honest with you. I don't want people in my life that are just, yeah, you're awesome. Yeah, yep, Dan, that's it. Man, what a guy. I don't want that. I don't want people in my life that are completely, constantly, verbally sparring with me or have formed some kind of resentment or jealousy. Sometimes that's what that is. Or it's just, it could be whatever it is, but you don't want people in your life that are going to be just yes people. So sometimes just asking a question when you see that resentment forming in somebody, and this isn't the case at all with the example I just gave, not in the least bit, but when you see it forming, the best way to handle something is handle it right then and there. And I might as well go into this. And if I end up covering a solution as I go through these, so be it. We'll read what the solutions are in the next section. But don't let something ride. Someone does you wrong, something you don't like, you deal with it right then and there with kindness and firmness. And if they don't understand the kindness, then be a dickhead. Who cares? Deal with it right then. Because if you let it go a couple years, I guarantee you it's going to fester. And in the next blow up or argument or whatever it is you have with this person, again, it's going to be somebody that you have to see. They're going to be a family member that you maybe don't want to see, but you have to sometimes. They're going to be a friend, or they're going to be connected somehow to your circle. That doesn't necessarily mean they're like in one of those outer circles. And once in a while you may have to see them, but you don't want something to fester and act like it didn't happen and stuff it down away and pretend it's not there, because it's still there and your subconscious knows it's there. So later on, if you have an issue with them, it's going to come to the surface. It's called gunny bagging. You got all these little problems that you start putting into the same area. Next thing you know, your bag is filled. And that person that you didn't squash something with 2 years ago does something, and they're going to get all of it. And they're going to get all the stuff they got coming in your mind. So, and this is like not big issues. This is with small things. If you deal with it right then and there, and then forget about it. There is a beautiful friend of mine, and I don't see her. God, it's been a long time since I've seen her, but she invented this word. And I just love this word because I like inventing words. And I think this one has beaten any word I've ever invented. The word's called forgettiness. So sometimes we just have to forgetty what that person did after we've checked it. After we've checked it right then and there. And be balanced about that. Not every single thing needs to be checked. Okay? There is a balance in this. So moving on to number 2. Misunderstandings or miscommunication. Okay, or again, this is 4 reasons why people form resentments. Misunderstanding or miscommunication. Simple misunderstandings can escalate into resentment if they're left unresolved. Oh, wow. I'm telling you, I'm not reading ahead. If they're left unresolved, especially when intentions are misread or actions are misinterpreted. And that's something I talked about. Not every single thing needs to have a hard check put on it, right? Because you could have misread somebody's intentions, actions, words, or misinterpreted their intentions, actions, words, which is why you should seek clarification. Now, when I worked for the state of Ohio, I was actually certified as an interpersonal communications teacher. And how that happened, I have no clue, at least at the time. I can talk now and stuff, right? But it's very important. It's also very important to pause for feedback if you're giving information and let the person finish their thought. If they're in the middle of a sentence, don't interrupt them until they're done getting their thought out, and then reply. If they pause long enough to reply. Sometimes that back and forth can be in itself in a conversation. It's a fine art form. It really is. But I find if you're a good listener, people will like to talk to you. The more people talk to you, the more information you'll have. The more information you have, the more you'll be able to make judgments on things. It's really common sense to me. So that kind of piggybacked just on what I said. The first one was jealousy, envy. So misunderstanding and miscommunication could lead to forming resentments, because if you are slightly offended at something and you want to be unoffended by it, ask for clarity. This kind of leads to other things. This leads to maybe if someone puts a hard check on something with you, because we do teach other people how to treat us. Okay. Maybe you take a look at something and you just simply say, "Oh, I'm sorry for that. I apologize about that." Could be something simple. And I'm not saying say sorry or apologize just to keep some type of conflict from beginning. But if someone didn't like something you said and you said it, all right, really have some introspection about it and don't have a problem saying, "Hey, I'm sorry about that." That's it. You would be surprised at how far that would go. The 5 hardest words to say in any human language: I was wrong. I'm sorry. When you run across a person who can't say that ever or admit they're wrong, they are a narcissistic sociopath. And that's a fact. So, moving on to number 3 in our 4 reasons why people form resentments. Hurt feelings. Oh, God. Yes. If someone feels wronged, ignored, undervalued, whether it's intentional or not, they may hold on to those emotions, leading to resentment. This is a big one for marriages. I've had this experience in my own life. Sometimes you're right about something and it's minor. And if you're a man, understand that sometimes ladies are going to just be in their feels. And ladies, if you're some stoic woman, because I've known one, I've had one in my life for a long time. The beautiful mother of my 2 grown children is very stoic. We're not together, but we still have a lot of care and respect for one another. But there's hurt feelings. Do you have to win every argument? Back when I was 30, 31, 32, 33 years old, there was no argument I was going to lose. I would turn people's logic right against them. It's what I was used to doing in my line of work. And honestly, back then, I had all the strengths that I currently have, but I had a lot more weaknesses. Ego was one of them. Uncontrolled ego was one of them. Because they teach you when you're going through different types of training that I've been through that you have to make a decision. You have to make a choice. Sometimes it's going to be the wrong choice, but you don't have time to hesitate. A lot of times you have to make a decision. So they kind of pound that into your head. And I don't agree with that looking back on it, because I don't want to make a wrong decision if I could, not make a wrong decision. But how many times did I win an argument that hurt feelings, that may have caused resentments, or may have caused, someone feels wronged, they may ignore you. They may start not talking to you and form resentments. That needs to be nipped in the bud too, because the longer you let that go, it's like every time someone feels like they've had something done to them, they put a brick up and they keep building a brick. And before you know it, if there's not proper communication, they got a wall put up. Okay. Next thing you know, they've got a whole pyramid from Egypt built. Good luck getting through that maze. You're never going to get to the Queen's Chamber that way, guys. Gals, you'll never get to the King's Chamber if that's what's happening. So again, communication is key. Pick and choose your battles. Let people be in their feels for a little bit, especially if they're loved ones. As long as it's not something that's going to, well, I'll give you, for instance, there's somebody who swore up and down that I was paying them a certain amount of money before a certain thing, and that I was paying them more money than I actually was. They swore up and down on it. I keep good records. I checked bank records from 3 years ago or whatever, and no, I was right. I was correct. Who cares? I didn't have to run back and say, oh no, here it is, I'll show it to you, I'm right. Who cares? That's not something vital to prove you're right about. I think if you're one of those types of people, you got other issues going on. Pick and choose what you're going to actually take a stand on as far as things are concerned, and you won't hurt feelings. And then if you do hurt someone's feelings, you got to ask them why. What can you do to not do that again? Okay, make sure you're not being emotionally manipulated. It's just like I said, there's so many overlapping things and so many nuances to why people form resentments. But hurt feelings, yeah, definitely. Okay, number four. Let's see what this says. Perceived unfairness. Oh, God. Okay. If someone thinks you're getting more opportunities, recognition, or resources than they are, they may feel resentment, even if the situation isn't entirely under your control. This relates right back to number one. No, I'm not getting more opportunities. I'm not getting more recognition. I don't have more resources. All those things I've worked for. Okay, I'm a nobody. No, I'm not some famous guy. I have been well respected in my fields. I've been told as a Marine, as a prison guard, as a cop, other people in my line of work felt safer when I was around. Do I take pride in that? Absolutely, I do. I like women to feel safe around me. And it's funny, children and animals always flock to me. So I've earned respect in fields that are hard to earn respect in. As a martial artist, I'm not Bruce Lee. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you I suck. I'm halfway decent at it, even despite my injuries, and I got a pretty good one right now. But sometimes a student will become envious of their teacher. Sometimes a son will become envious of their father. Sometimes a father will be envious of the son. It can go both ways. The envy is really, in the perceived unfairness, it's really in a shortcoming that you personally have. So it's, again, they might be gaslighting themselves even. Because if they have to tell themselves the truth, they might have to say, hey, I have to put in more work. Because there's a saying out there, luck and chance favor the prepared. Well, preparation takes work. There's no cheat codes in any of this. So the stuff I know about the occult, the stuff I know about the tarot, I know a lot more than your average person. I'm not enough to have anyone envious of me, but you never know. I know more than your average person about a lot of things. And if it happens to be topics or things that someone else values as important for them to be good at, and they're not, they can become very resentful of you. And they will gaslight themselves and just perceive it as being unfair. These are the people that never look in the mirror and point all four of their fingers and their thumb at the mirror. They won't even get in front of a mirror. So we have to be careful and understand what we're dealing with when someone starts to think that something is unfair. You know what I think is unfair? Other human beings thinking they have some type of authority under God's natural law to rule other human beings. I think slavery is unfair. I think it's unfair to judge grown-ups' consensual sexual actions that they do with one another under hold on a second, that's Psychic Sonia. Hey Sonia, you're live on revolution.radio. I just answered the phone real quick to let you know.
Are you kidding?
Yeah, no, you're live. You're right by the microphone. Denny called earlier, so I gave him a shout out for his singing and stuff. Is there anything you want to give a shout out for? Anything?
Well, yeah, the aurora borealis that's keeping everybody awake. That's what's wrong. That's why nobody can sleep.
Okay.
We just had that weird moon, and now we've got this aurora borealis just revving everybody up, man. Everybody's all in emotion right now.
Yeah, I'm pretty even killed now. I usually I'm all over the place all the other times though, so I guess it doesn't matter. Well, no,
I mean, people are hitting me up left and right for readings. It's not just me having a hard time sleeping and worrying. It's like I don't know why the aurora borealis would make me wired, but I think there's something to that energy that interferes with something going on. I don't know how to explain it scientifically, but I think it interferes.
I think there's.
I think I need to take you off of speaker. Hold on.
Okay.
It might be better that way. Good morning, Daniel. I was going to tell you that the Bigfoot reports are coming in. Oh my God.
Okay.
Kind of like bear reports, they're rare, but they're up and they're looking for food and they're being seen by the roadways where there's roadkill.
Oh wow.
And wherever the turnpike people drop their dead animals, or where the highway people will drop their dead animals, they're seen in those areas. And one of those areas is I-90 over there in eastern northern Ohio on I-90 going east. Right past the Cuyahoga Valley, I think there's a spot where the highwaymen will dump the dead deer because it goes down in a slope.
Okay.
And the story goes, dig this. The story goes, the guys on the road crew, all you gotta do is ask them, They said that they dropped a 10-pointer with a beautiful rack, a gorgeous 10-pointer, and the guy was like, I'm going to come back later after this thing rots up, after the middle of after the winter, I'm going to come back and get this skull, right?
Right.
Well, he comes back to the area later, and he climbs all the way down there. He's got his ropes, he's got his sled, he's got, he's going to go get that head, And he said there was no deer there.
How about that?
Something had harvested, and it didn't just like a bear would stay there and eat it, or maybe a big cat would drag it off and put it up in a tree if there's cougar there,
Right.
A bobcat would eat it right there. Coyote pack would have that torn apart.
Interesting.
Said every one of those carcasses that they dumped all winter was gone.
Let me ask you a question real quick, because the topic of today's radio show, and I'm going to be getting back to the radio show because I just got to finish up a couple things and I'll be done. I got 5 items to get through. In your experience, for you personally, what have been your experiences with dealing with resentment? Just like people who are resentful towards you for something, or what have you seen in resentment from others that? What are your just general experiences with it? Just like a quick 2-minute.
Well, I would say that how to deal with it is to teach someone how to be indifferent to it, because you can let it get to you.
Mm-hmm.
And resentment is a vibe that keeps being sent out into the universe. So people who are resentful and full of that. They're focused on what you've done wrong and what the victim thinking. They focus on what you're doing wrong instead of what they can do right. They're too focused on what they're pissed off about rather than resetting and,
Let me just break in here, guys.
Important.
I love Psychic Sonia. She's one of my mentors, and I'm going to tell you that's the advice she's had to give me. And Sonia, I'm gonna get you off here in a second. I just want to tell you personally, I love you, and your patience is freaking legendary.
Okay, sorry I went off on Bigfoot. It's just something I had to tell you.
No, that's great. Because where I might be moving, there might be a lot of Bigfoot activity, a lot of it. So
ooh, yes, well, I'm in.
Cool.
I'm camping. We're
so
in.
I'm gonna jump off here.
Have a great rest of the show. Sorry, I forgot you were on the show.
Oh, that's okay. Thanks a lot.
All right, bye.
Bye. All right, that's nationally famous Psychic Sonia. She's been on national Bigfoot shows, and she is one of the premier really gifted psychics here in Ohio. Can't say enough good things about her. So getting back to this, it says if you ever feel this is what the chat PT says, if you ever feel like someone resents you, addressing it with understanding, empathy can go a long way in easing the tension. Now that's really funny because I didn't read that beforehand. I haven't planned these calls. I just haven't. Because I know some radio shows do that. I haven't done that. And what she talked about is basically just that. Handling and addressing it with empathy can go a long way to ease the tension. If you put your energy onto that, it's going to grow. And then you're going to send back that kind of energy, which will just create more of the same from them. Okay? Just like violence has never really done anything but beget more violence. So they say violence doesn't solve problems. I tend to agree. I think it just creates a resentment that could be generational, and it will go on forever if the violence doesn't stop. However, don't confuse that with using righteous self-defense force in the situations where you absolutely have to. I've seen martial arts people get out there and they don't teach a good balance between the law and technique. They're either all technique with no consequences, and they're usually good martial artists, but they're not addressing de-escalation. They're not, you should be able to attempt to de-escalate a situation. They're not addressing those types of things or basic self-defense laws. You can end up in prison. On the other hand, you got guys that overdo it with the self-defense, and I find their technique sucks. They have nothing of substance to teach as far as martial arts or self-defense is concerned. So you got to find somebody with a balance of both. And that's what my book, The Violence and Ego, was really about, is finding that balanced instructor. And, I'll just add something else. I had something personal happen in my life, and I can't talk about it. It's a legal matter. I'll just tell you, I have a full 1 or 2 radio shows that I'll talk about it after this matter is concluded. And it fits into everything between both my books, Rise from Darkness, Violence and Ego, the lessons I've learned in it also, because there are lessons. Okay, I got 6 minutes left here. Oh, my goodness. All right, strategies of dealing with resentments towards you or others. Communicate openly. Address the issue directly. I've already said that up above, but in a calm and non-confrontational way. Encourage the person to share their feelings and listen actively to understand their perspective. Okay? It might be legitimate, or they might be some egomaniac that can never admit they're wrong about anything. Again, pick and choose your battles. Okay? I think I'll just leave that at that. Pick and choose your battles. 2, acknowledge their feelings. Validate their emotions, even if you disagree with their reasoning. Sometimes people just want to feel heard and understood. And as you do that, if no one's in danger, it's okay to do that, because you're doing that might help them relax a little bit, and it might help you find a better solution to that disagreement. Or if it's something that's worth disagreeing with, now you've set the stage to make them into a more active listener, and not just listening to respond, but really hearing what you're saying. You got to understand, if their ego is activated, you might need to just let it go for a little bit. but acknowledging the feelings is important. But you have to know who you're dealing with. Take accountability if their resentment stems from something you've done. I've said that. Now, okay. Acknowledge your part in it. Apologize sincerely and work at making amends. Now, like I said, dealing with someone earlier, if you're dealing with a narcissistic sociopath, they're never going to admit they're wrong, and they will never, under any circumstances, say they're sorry. They may say, "Hey, you shouldn't have got so mad. I know I could have planned better, but you should." They're never going to admit it. Sooner or later, these are people you may have to put out of your life. Number 3, take accountability. If their resentment stems from something you've done, acknowledge your part in it, apologize sincerely, make amends. I did that one already. Okay, number 4, set boundaries. If their resentment becomes toxic or begins to negatively affect you, it's important to set boundaries and protect your mental health. Again, this goes back to dealing with it right then and there and not letting it fester. And I know the dark side of setting boundaries is too many people are meme educated, and the new age community will have you thinking you need to always set boundaries. Understand sometimes setting boundaries comes from your own injuries and wounds, and you're setting a boundary that's not necessary, and it's just a wording that you use that some people will use because they're trying to exert some kind of control in any given situation. So they're setting a boundary. No, sometimes they're just being an asshole. They're not setting a boundary. Understand what a healthy boundary is. It's when somebody's taking advantage of you. It's when someone isn't appreciating your help. You set the boundary. We teach others how to treat us. Okay? We teach others how to treat us. And I'm going to say, if the person has a big temper, they're always right, they're never wrong, they're narcissistic, you've caught them in many, many lies, this isn't a person you need to only set boundaries with. This is a person that you may very well need to actually put out of your life. See, I'm going to tell you something. I don't ghost anybody. Ghosting family or friends is psychological terrorism. It is a narcissistic attempt to try to take control of a relationship in some kind of way. And if you ghost me ever, I promise you I will become Casper. You won't have to worry about me ever bugging you. You can go F yourself, especially if you're a friend or a family. We got our cell phones up our rear ends. Now, I'm not saying I always have mine. Sometimes it's in the car. I'm in the gym. I don't keep it totally on me at all times, but most people are going to be able to get back to you that day. If you're not that important to them and you've sent some communication out to them once or twice, don't communicate again, but don't get mad. Maybe their phone's broke. Maybe they're super busy. Don't take it personal, especially if this is someone you have never had a problem with. But I don't ghost people. If there's somebody that bad in my life, I put them out of my life. I don't ghost them. So to me, ghosting it's a manipulative attempt at controlling a relationship. It's cowardly, or what they just like to say on the east side of Cleveland, where I used to work, it's bitch assness. So I never ghost. That's not the way to solve a problem, and that's not setting a boundary. You can set boundaries without ghosting. If the boundary you set is you're out of my life, then you're not ghosting somebody. You're just putting them out of your life because they're unhealthy for you. And I think in the microcosm of our lives, all this is significant because it's what we put out into the macrocosm. And look at the state the world's in right now. The world is in chaos, and it's purposely made chaos. Oh. Anyways, peace out, everybody. Love you. Next week, stay safe.